Hello everyone. Today we are still on the same track with Introduction to Linguistics, and it's going to be lecture number 4. This is Dr. Alaa Al-Hams, and today we are going to deal mainly with semantics. Now, semantics, there is a famous quote that says, "Language without meaning is meaningless," by Roman Jacobson. Now, what do we mean by semantics? Semantics is the branch of linguistics that deals with the study of meaning, changes in meaning, and the principles that govern the relationship between sentences or words and their meanings. Sentences, utterances, and propositions. A sentence is a string of words put together by the grammatical rules of a language. For example, a house was struck by lightning last night, while an utterance is a piece of language or a sequence of sentences, a single phrase or a single word used by a particular speaker on a particular occasion. For example, hello and not much. While a preposition is that part of the meaning of the utterance of a declarative sentence which describes some state of affairs. For example, Paul turned on the TV. Now, features of semantics. Word meaning or lexical semantics. This deals with the meanings of individual words and how they relate to each other. It includes understanding things like synonyms, antonyms, and polysemy when a word has multiple meanings. Sentence meaning or compositional semantics. This examines how the meanings of individual words combine to form the meaning of a sentence. It involves rules for how words combine grammatically to create a coherent meaning. Pragmatics, while technically distinct from semantics, pragmatics is closely related. It studies how context affects meaning. For example, a sentence might have different meanings depending on the situation in which it is used. Ambiguity or ambiguity. Semantics also deals with how meanings can be ambiguous. Ambiguity can arise at the level of words. For example, bank could mean a financial institution or the side of a river. Or sentences. Example, I saw the man with the telescope, which could mean either that the man had a telescope or that the speaker used a telescope to see the man. Truth conditions. Semantics often involves analyzing the truth conditions of statements, meaning the conditions under which a statement is considered true or false. This is especially important in logical semantics. Sense and reference. These concepts, introduced by philosopher Gottlob Frege, focus on how words or phrases refer to things in the world, i.e., reference, and the mental concept or sense that it evoked by a word or sense. Tense and aspect. Semantics also includes the study of temporal aspects of meaning, such as tense, when something happens, and aspect, whether an action is completed, ongoing, etc. Metaphor and figurative meaning. Semantics analyzes how figurative language, such as metaphors or idioms, creates meaning that goes beyond the literal interpretation of words. Entailment and presupposition. This aspect focuses on how the meaning of one statement can lead to conclusions about other statements. For example, John is a bachelor, which entails that John is unmarried. Entailment. In semantics and pragmatics, entailment is the principle that under certain conditions the truth of one statement ensures the truth of a second statement, also called strict implication, logical consequence, and semantic consequence. The two types of entailment that are the most frequent in language, says Daniel van der Wegen, are truth, conditional, and illocutionary entailments. For example, he says the performative sentence, I beg you to help me. Illocutionary entails the imperative sentence, please help me. And the truth, conditionally, entails the declarative sentence, you can help me. When compositionality goes awry, so anomaly, metaphor, and idioms. We'll be looking at these three words. Now let's start with anomaly. Anomalies in language are sentences or expressions that are grammatically correct but don't make sense in the usual way. They violate semantic expectations and can appear illogical, absurd, or nonsensical. These aren't errors in syntax or grammar, but they challenge our understanding of meaning. For example, colorless green ideas sleep furiously. A famous example from Noam Chomsky. This sentence is syntactically correct. It's grammatically well formed, but it doesn't make logical or coherent sense. It's an anomaly because the words though grammatically correct, do not form a meaningful sentence in normal conversation. Anomalies highlight the distinction between syntax, which means structure, and semantics, meaning. Now let's look at metaphor. What is a metaphor? A metaphor involves understanding one concept in terms of another. It's a way to describe something indirectly by drawing a comparison to something else, often to explain an abstract concept using something more concrete or familiar. Metaphors go beyond literal meaning, relying on figurative language to convey meaning. Example, time is money. This metaphor doesn't mean that time is literally money, but it equates the value of time with the value of money. It suggests that time, like money, is valuable and should be used wisely. Here, time is understood in terms of money, which is a concept most people are familiar with, making it easier to grasp the importance of time in our lives. Idioms. An idiom is a phrase or expression that has a meaning different from the literal meanings of the individual words. Idioms often reflect cultural traditions and historical uses of language. They can't be understood by interpreting the individual words alone. They require familiarity with the whole expression as a unit. For example, spill the beans. This idiom doesn't refer to actual beans being spilled. Instead, it means to reveal a secret or disclose something that was supposed to remain hidden. The meaning is figurative and must be understood as a whole expression, not by its individual components. Lexical semantics. Lexical semantics is the branch of semantics that deals with the meaning of words and their relationships to one another within a language. It focuses on how words convey meaning, how different meanings are encoded in individual words, and how words relate to concepts, objects, and ideas in the world. Aspects of lexical semantics. First, word meaning. Lexical semantics is primarily concerned with understanding the meaning of individual words. This involves looking at denotation and connotation. What's the difference between both terms? Denotation, the literal primary meaning of a word, or the object or concept it refers to. For example, the denotation of dog is a domesticated carnivorous mammal. Connotation, the secondary often emotional or cultural associations of a word. For example, home might denote a place of residence, but it can also connote warmth, safety, and comfort. Sense and reference. What are the main differences between both terms? Sense refers to the mental representation or concept associated with a word. For instance, the sense of the word dog involves the mental concept of a four-legged mammal that is often kept as a pet. Reference, it refers to the actual object or thing in the world that the word points to. The reference of dog would be any specific dog in the world. For example, your neighbor's dog, a stray dog on the street. Polysemy. Polysemy occurs when a single word has multiple related meanings. For example, the word bank can refer to a financial institution or the side of a river. Lexical semantics studies how these meanings arise and how they are related to one another. Synonymy. What's the meaning of synonymy? Synonyms are words that have similar meanings. Lexical semantics examines the nuances in meaning between synonyms. For example, big and large are synonyms, but they may have different connotations or be used in different contexts. For example, large might be preferred when referring to a room, while big is more casual. Antonymy. Antonyms are words that have opposite meanings. Lexical semantics explores different types of antonyms. We have gradable antonyms, words that with opposite meanings on a scale, for example, hot versus cold. Complementary antonyms, words that are opposites without a middle ground, for example, alive versus dead. Relational antonyms, words that are opposites in a reciprocal relationship, for example, teacher versus student. Hyponymy and hypernymy. Hyponymy refers to a word that is more specific than another word. For example, rose is a hyponym of flower. Hypernymy is the reverse, where a word is more general than another. For example, flower is a hypernym of rose. Now, meronymy. Meronymy is a relationship in which one word refers to a part of something else. For example, wheel is a meronym of car, because a wheel is a part of a car. Now, let's look at word classes, or parts of speech. Lexical semantics also studies how words belong to different categories. Example, nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and so on. And how these categories contribute to meaning. For example, the meaning of the word run changes depending on whether it is used as a verb, for example, to run, or a noun, a run. Now, let's look at word formation. Lexical semantics looks at how new words are created and how their meanings are formed. This includes processes like compounding, derivation, and borrowing. Compounding means combining two words to form a new one, like toothpaste or football. Derivation, adding prefixes or suffixes to change the meaning of a word, like happiness from happy. Borrowing, incorporating words from other languages. Pragmatics, of course, is the branch of linguistics that studies how people use language in context. It focuses on how speakers convey meaning in real-world situations, considering factors beyond the literal meaning of words. Pragmatics examines the role of context, social interactions, and cultural norms in shaping the way language is used and understood. Here are some of the main concepts concepts studied within pragmatics. So, we have speech acts. They refer to the actions that speakers perform when they use language. Rather than just conveying information, speakers often use language to do things such as making requests, giving orders, making promises, or apologizing. Types of speech acts. We have different types like assertives, statements that describe how things are. For example, the sky is blue. Directives, requests or commands. For example, can you help me with this? Commissives, promises or offers. For example, I will call you tomorrow. Expressives, expressions of emotions or feelings. For example, I am sorry for your loss. Declarations, statements that bring about a change in the world. For example, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Now let's look at conversational implicature. So, implicature refers to the meaning that is implied but not directly stated. This concept, developed by philosopher H.P. Grice, involves inferences that listeners make based on context, shared knowledge, and conversational principles. Grice's cooperative principle. So, Grice proposed that speakers and listeners generally follow a set of maxims to ensure effective communication. These maxims are maxims of quantity, quality, relation, or manner. Maxim of quantity gives the right amount of information, not too much, not too little. Quality do not provide false or unsupported information, while relation is relevant in your communication. Manner, be clear and orderly. Diaxis. Diaxis refers to words and phrases that depend on the context for their meaning. The interpretation of didactic expressions changes depending on factors like the speaker's identity, the time of the conversation, and the location. Types of diaxis. Person diaxis, which refers to the speaker, the listener, and others in the conversation. For example, I, you, he, or she. Time diaxis refers to the time of the conversation or an event in the world. For example, now, later, yesterday. Place diaxis refers to the location of events or participants, here and there. Discourse diaxis refers to parts of the conversation itself, for example, this, that, and the following. While social diaxis refers to social relationships and status, for example, formal titles like Mr. or Doctor. And here we come to the end of our session. Thank you very much for your attention. You will find this document attached with the main references. See you next time, inshallah.